purpose with this. I thought it would be fun if the first graders all got to be actors and instruments. So we have some narrators, Ellie Shum, Caroline Judy, and then we have a couple of extra instrumentalists down here, Olivia Shee and Alice Ho. Thank you very much.
In the forest there grew a little pine tree. She looked very beautiful with her straight trunk and shiny green needles, but she was very unhappy.
Oh, she sighed, if only I looked different. All the other trees in the forest have such pretty soft leaves that dance in the wind. My needles are so straight and stiff that they can't move at all, and they are so prickly that nobody comes near me. But as it costs nothing to wish, I might as well wish for leaves. Prettier leaves than those on the other trees. Gold leaves. Ah, yes, how I would like to have leaves of gold.
And with these words, the little pine tree fell asleep. In the morning, the little tree felt very strange. When she tried to stretch her limbs as she always did upon waking up, she had a difficult time lifting her branches. They seemed very heavy. When she opened her eyes, she had to shut them again quickly, for there was such a glaring glimmer. When she was finally able to keep her eyes open, she found that every single one of her branches was covered with leaves of gold.
She was very happy. She said to herself, now I am more beautiful than any other tree in the forest. None of them, the poor things, have such beautiful leaves. And with that, she drew herself up as tall as she could and bent and turned her limbs so that the sunlight blazed and glittered on her leaves of gold.
It was almost evening when robbers with large sacks over their shoulders wandered into the forest. The little pine tree with her shining gold leaves stood out from all the other trees. When the robbers came up to examine the leaves, their joy knew no bounds. The leaves were pure gold. Every one of the leaves was instantly stuffed into the robber's bag, and with that, the robbers threw the sack over their shoulders and left as quickly as they had come.
The pine tree shook and trembled, partly in fear and partly from the chill of the night air. Oh dear, what shall I do now? I am uglier than ever. I shall never ask for gold leaves again. Leaves of glass. And with these words, the little pine tree fell asleep.
The next morning, the little tree was awakened by a wonderful, soft, ringing, tinkling sound. She looked around to see where this strange music was coming from and found to her surprise that she herself was the source of the beautiful music. Her branches were covered with the most delicate leaves of glass. Their sun made them sparkle with all the colors of the rainbow. She was the most marvelous sight.
Look at me, the pine tree shouted. I am more beautiful than all you other trees, and I can make finer music than any of you birds." She shook her branches gently so that the leaves shone delicate prisms while producing the sweetest music ever heard in the forest.
But it was not long before the sun disappeared behind big black clouds. A strong storm was building up on the horizon. It was howling and growling, and wind whirled and whistled around the pine tree. The wind blew fiercely through the pine tree's branches and shook them without mercy.
Sad when she looked at her ugly, bare branches. She thought to herself, "But of course, how could I have been so thoughtless as to wish for glass leaves? I think now that if I could have leaves like all the other trees, I should be content."
And with these words, the little pine tree fell asleep.
Stop it, cried the tree. "Can't you see that you are breaking my precious leaves?" But the wind did not listen and blew harder than ever. The delicate leaves of glass smashed against each other and fell broken into 1,000 pieces. When she looked at her ugly bare branches, she thought to herself, "But of course, how could I have been so thoughtless as to wish for glass leaves? I think now that if I could have leaves like all the other trees, I should be content."
And with these words, the little pine tree fell asleep. When the little pine tree awoke in the morning, her limbs felt soft and light. They seemed to dance in the morning breeze.
She looked at herself, and lo and behold, she was covered with soft green leaves that rustled and danced on her branches. She said, "Now I shall be satisfied."
Toward the evening, a family of deer came along in search for a good supper. They soon saw the little tree with her young tender leaves, and immediately the deer began to nibble on the leaves, and they found them very tasty and juicy indeed. The deer settled down for a good meal. Since the tree leaves were small, they could reach even the top with their long necks. In a very short time, they had eaten up all the leaves. The little pine tree stood bare once again.
branches drooping and said, "Why was I not satisfied with my needles? If only I could have my needles back again." It was a very long time before she fell asleep that night. The little pine tree only hoped that she would have one final wish. She would ask for her needles back just the way they were at the beginning. She finally fell asleep, wishing hard for her needles.
First graders, I really need to talk to your parents. So if you would just be really quiet for a minute while I give them some instructions. If you have a child up on the stage, we are going to ask that one parent come up and get your children, and the first grade teachers and I will stay here until they've all been picked up. But if just one parent would come up here and get your children, then we'll go ahead and dismiss them to you. Thank you so much.